This is a very impromptu video, I'm really sorry, but someone did ask me about the basics of sewing and what I know. There isn't much else I can tell you apart from things that people are already going to tell you, but if this is your first time looking for basics, then keep a good listen. This is a very impromptu video, so I don't actually have anything on me. Forgive me for that. I can't exactly run and grab anything because it is almost 4 o'clock in the morning. Wow, I need to go to bed at some point. Okay. The first thing that, when it comes to making clothes or doing cosplay or anything like that, is the first tip I can give you is get a pattern. Get a pattern and follow it. It is the most common tip you'll get from anyone ever, but a pattern will always come with instructions, and it will always come with, you know, detailed instructions of how to make your outfit. I managed to follow the instructions of a corset and make it in about 2 or 3 days. Although I did have a tiny bit of help, but that's just because I'm still getting used to using industrial machines myself. And I didn't do boning because I ran out of time to do it, so sorry. I'm also looking up a couple of things at the same time. Yeah. So basically, get a pattern and follow it. It tells you how to do everything. It's the best, most common tip you'll get from anyone. Second one is take your time and don't be afraid. If you feel like you're going to go too fast and if you're going to screw up somewhere, take your time, slow down, even take a break if you need. You don't want to rush it, and because if you rush it, it's more than likely going to come out unprofessional, it's going to look bad, and it's going to fit bad too, it's going to feel bad. Also, don't be afraid to add darts and things like that, like things that make your costume and your clothes a lot more form-fitting. It does help a lot because no one's bodies are exactly the same, and I found out the other day that I am a little more misshapen than I imagined, so now I have to accommodate to something that's a little more common, but it's going to be a little more work than I expected, but it's always going to be best to make it form-fitting, otherwise, yeah, because it'll be more comfortable and everything like that, well, for me especially. The third tip, this is for when you buy patterns. The size of your pattern is not the same as the sizing as when you buy clothes off the rack. To put it more simply, when you buy clothes off the rack, it goes from 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, you know what I mean? That's stuff that you buy pre-made. So at shops like JJ's and stuff like that, those are pre-made sizes. The sizes on a pattern is completely different. They are industrial sizes. They are, how do I describe them? What you need to do is you need to take all your measurements and in inches and in centimeters. It's always best to take them down in both inches and centimeters, just in case, because some patterns only have inches, some patterns only have centimeters, so on and so forth. Catch my drift? Yeah, so the pattern sizes are not the same as the sizes you will buy in a store. Always take your measurements and take those when you buy a pattern, because it will always change. I could on one pattern be a size 14 and then on another pattern be a size 18, sometimes even a size 16. I had to buy 3 patterns for a Tinkerbell costume I made, and this big long white skirt I had to use a size 18 because my hips are wide, and on the corset I had to use a size 16 because I have a larger bust than the size 14 would have imagined, and that's not fair. But yeah, kind of have to deal with it, otherwise it's not going to fit. Yeah. The fourth one is, this is especially for cosplayers, because a lot of the time and for women as well, because a lot of the time, most clothes and stuff like that don't come with these. Add pockets if you want. Mostly, if the pattern comes with pockets, then I would suggest adding pockets. If it's for a costume, going to a convention and stuff like that, add pockets. That way you can lighten your load. You can always keep things on you, like some cash, phones, and your tickets and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's always convenient to add pockets if you want, and if you can. In a lot of cases you can't add pockets. Some cases you can cheat, but there's not much else I can add to it. When sewing curves, this is especially for when it comes to sewing a corset or anything. A corset is always going to have curves, especially for a woman, because the shape of the corset is going to accommodate for your curves, and it's going to be a lot more form-fitting, you know what I mean? Like I said before, when it comes to cutting curves, especially for the breast area, you are going to want to snip it. Where there's a curve, you snip the material so that the curve is a lot more mobile and it's not static. If you cut it, then there's that less stress, the less material that's going to restrict it from properly curving. And that's always a great thing to remember to do. Otherwise your curves are going to probably come out bulky. They'll come out more of a straight line, you know what I mean? Yes, there is that. And the sixth one is, when you're buying material, it's always better to buy more material than buy less. I've encountered this problem many times when I've been like, oh, I only need 2 meters, but then I realized 2 meters is not actually a lot, depending on the material, because sometimes material can be maybe about this long, and then the next one will be about double that length. Sometimes even triple if I'm lucky, but those ones are usually a little more expensive, you know what I mean? Yeah, so it's always better to buy more material than less, just in case, because you don't want to run out and be like, ah, frick. It's happened too many times. Just another side note when it comes to buying material, it's always a good idea to maybe, if you're looking for large amounts of material or not, try going to thrift stores and buying things like curtains and some of the scraps they might have there, and you know what I mean, like bed sheets and stuff like that. You can get those really cheap. So if you're a cosplayer on a budget, try thrift stores. They can always help. You can even buy things from thrift stores and just dye them. That would be your base. That would be really awesome for your base. Sorry. I'm getting really tired, sorry. Okay. My 7th tip would be, when it comes to, when you're sewing straight material, usually, sorry, let me rephrase that. The one kind of stitch that is going to be most of your stitching, most of your sewing, is going to be a straight stitch. A straight stitch is, well, like the name says, it is a straight stitch. And I use industrial machines now, although I do have a very old machine in the other room, so there is that. But I do work with industrial machines a lot more now these days, thanks to my sewing tutor. I have gotten used to all these different kinds of machines and stuff like that, but the main amount of sewing is going to be either overlocking or straight stitch, and straight stitch is great. You've got to remember that. So when you're working with straight stitch, a tip for keeping everything coming out, what's the word, even and all in one place, is like I said, take your time and don't be afraid to take things in segments. Let's just use this nasty old tea towel for an example. Say you've got something that's, I'm going to guess this is about maybe 30 inches or something like that. This is not 15 inches. I don't know how long this is. What you want to do is when you put it into the machine, you always go forward and go back. You're going to tack back over the material so that it locks it in place. What you do then is you put the foot down so that it's holding it to the machine. You take sorry. You take all the material and you lift it over your left shoulder, and from there you will even it out, and you'll make sure that the ends meet up. Let's just say that for example, for the time being, that both of the pieces of material are exactly straight and they're perfect. From then on, what you do is you take from where from where the length of material is, and you put your thumb underneath and you hold the top layer, you kind of pinch it and just fold it forward. So you see on the side, you're pinching it with your thumb and you're folding it forward. That's adding tension. And then from where the feed dogs are, you're going to do this thing called a spider crawl. This is how you hold it. It's like, almost like playing piano. It's like a spider crawl and you've got to add a lot of tension. It's almost like, it's probably going to hurt first couple of times around, which is why it's good to get practice and get the feel of it. You want it to move, but then again you don't, because if it does, more than likely it's going to come out uneven. Yeah. Another tip would be always, a pattern or something like that would probably say to use 5/8 of an inch for seam allowance. And that's just like the space between like your garment and what's allowed to be sewn on. I personally don't use 5/8. I use a 1/4 of an inch. So that's usually like the first mark, and that's plenty. That leaves plenty of space for me to work with, and it works wonders. It's fine. You can tell I'm getting tired. Yeah. A couple of equipment tips to offer are, oh yeah, you don't need pins. If you use the techniques I just showed you before with the material, with pinching it under your thumb and holding it down, you won't need pins unless you want them. Generally, you won't need them. And it's a matter of taking your time. It's a matter of taking your time and concentrating, and your garment will more than likely come out great. So you don't always need pins, but they're great to have on hand, to have on side. Like I now have a big jar of these pins that are usually for quilting and stuff like that, but I personally use them for adjusting patterns and stuff like that, for when like I need to take things in. So it's just like a really quick, cute little pin. Come on, come on. Yeah. Good. Sorry, there's a leaf in here. Yeah. So pins are not always necessary. They're good to have on hand. It's always good to have some. Yeah. When you do use pins, you can either use those pins that are like just completely metal, or you can use glass head pins. I don't recommend plastic pins because usually those are cheaper and they don't last as long, which really does suck and it pisses me off. But glass head pins are my personal favourite now, because you can use them when you're like using the iron and stuff like that, when you're steaming because they won't melt. Plastic ones will melt if you sew and you've still got a couple of pins in and you've missed them by accident. You will usually miss a pin or two, and that's normal, that's totally fine. It's just you can't sew over the pin, and I've seen this happen 3 times now that we've fucked up and been like, oh shit, we just sewed over a pin. What's the word? The only other downside to using pins is that a lot of them you can get lost. You will run out of like count of how many you use, how many you have on track, and so on and so forth. So it's always good to have a pin cushion or to have a little magnetic stand that just has like a heavy duty magnet to hold all the pins down. Yeah. Speaking of magnets, it's always good to have a magnet on the side of your machine. It won't mess with, most of them won't mess with your machinery in your sewing machine, so they should help, they should be fine. But they're always good to like keep track of your pins and stuff like that, or even keeping track of the next thing we'll talk about, which is shears. And shears, I don't have mine on hand, but it really pisses me off that I don't have anything on hand at the moment. It's all downstairs and I can't run downstairs. Ow. Sorry. Yeah, they're just like little metal shears that you can keep on hand, keep them along the side for, instead of having to wrap the material back behind your machine foot and slicing it off with that little messy blade, you can get a clean cut with the shears. They're inexpensive and they last a good month or 3, and it's always good to buy them in bulk as well because they're really inexpensive and they work really, really well. So yeah, you can keep those on a magnet on the side of your machine, and they work great. Sorry. The last one I'm going to talk to you about is a rotary cutter. They're an alternate from using scissors and sewing scissors. Sorry, 4 in the morning scissors is like a tongue twister. Yeah. They're an alternate to scissors because they're kind of like a pizza cutter. Except they're a lot more safe, so to speak. It's pretty much exactly like a pizza cutter, having a round blade, and you press down on some material, and you get a lot cleaner cut. Like the blade doesn't always, what's the word? Dull. It doesn't like lose its touch, although sometimes you will have to sharpen it, and they are expensive, but they are totally worth it. The ones that I work with are Alpha brand rotary cutters. They're not mine, but I love working with them. They just glide, except sometimes they have that tendency to kind of what's the word? They do have the tendency to like skip a little bit and leave a little tag, if you know what I mean, and it just keeps the material like attached, and it really pisses me off. So that's why I always have the shears, because usually the little tack is like big enough for the shears to cut through, and it's fine. Yeah. Yeah. So rotary cutters are a lot better when it comes to especially cutting out patterns, cutting out curvy patterns and stuff like that. They keep the material down as well. Yeah. So those are my basic tips when it comes to starting sewing. Those are the basics. Like you really you do just have to know the basics to get sewing, and then you can just go anywhere from there. Long story short, anyone can sew as long as they know the basics. And so really I'm getting to that point where it's like I kind of forget that people don't have a sewing machine and they can't actually, some people can't sew, when I know now that's absolute bullshit, because anyone can sew if they just put their mind to it. Yeah. Sorry, I've been bouncing between this and another conversation. I'm sorry, I'm really bad. Like I said, anyone can do the basics, anyone can sew. It just takes a real creative mind and determination to do it well and to like pursue it into something really great and really wonderful. Yeah, so you can take my tips. If you want more, leave a comment saying like what you want to know, what certain kind of tips you want to know. If you want to learn how to do lining and stuff like that, just leave a comment and I'll probably make a video about it. Also, like it if these actually do help, although they are really basics. Yeah, so I hope that helps. Good luck.